You know, I never realized how dark my room was until I started filming in here and having to add extra lighting. Hello and welcome, my name is Eric, today is Friday, and as promised, here's part 2 of Discernment by Henri Nouwen. So, part 2 is helpfully called Discerning Guidance in Books, Nature, People, and Events. Guess what part 2 talks about? This list covers a very broad part of our lives, and is essentially meant to show that there are a lot of different things we can draw from to help us through the process of discernment. Now, once again, time limits are going to put a little bit of a constraint on us, but I want to talk about major points that I pulled out of each of the chapters, especially as related to what I talked about in my last video. So, topic number 1. Books. Books are great. I have a lot of books, like right here, and here, and here, plus some others scattered around the room. And holding up the camera. And more back home. Anyways, Nouwen doesn't necessarily cover the need to read books or which books to read, but rather more about how we read what we're reading. The discussion centers on what he calls spiritual reading, defining spiritual reading not as reading spiritual things, but reading spiritual things in a spiritual way. Reading spiritual things solely for information kind of misses the point. You're not really gaining any spiritual insight, and you're not allowing what you're reading to form you. You're just gaining information. Now, for anyone who's a little bit uncomfortable with me talking about spiritual things, I have to let you know that this is a little bit new for me. Quite honestly, I bought this book really just to gain information, but in a lot of ways it's very different from anything else I've ever read. The process of reading it has changed the way I think about a lot of different things, not just discernment, and hopefully I'll be able to discuss that a little more later on. The second topic Nouwen talks about is nature. Nouwen admitted at the start of the chapter that it was a lot easier for him to read words on a page than to read nature, and I have to agree with that. I actually only highlighted 2 different things in the chapter that I connected with. One of these things that really hits close to the main point of the chapter discusses how we relate to nature. Basically, do we see nature as a thing to be exploited, or do we see it for its beauty and as a gift to be received? Okay, I'm not really sure that I know what I'm talking about. I'm what you might call indoorsy. I've lived in Colorado for almost 3 years now, and I have yet to make it up to the mountains. Though, to be fair, I have worked the majority of the weekends that I've lived out here, and I'm in the middle of a graduate degree, so... Point being, I can see nature and I can appreciate it, and I understand the point of not seeing it just as resources to be exploited, but it's not something that I really connect with. Or maybe I should say, it's not something I've really connected with yet. But let's keep moving on to the next topic, paying attention to the people in your path. That was a lot of P's. It didn't really seem that there was a whole lot of new information for me in this chapter. People can speak into your life and can help you along the path of discernment. And this makes sense if discernment is happening in community, but I suppose it's always good to have the reminder. Finally, we've reached the topic that pretty much covers where I am right now, events and timing. Or as the book puts it, discerning the signs of the times. What the heck does that even mean? A lot of what I pulled out of this chapter was a reminder about God's timing. You know, the kind of topic that seems like it's just spiritual talk until you realize that it's actually true. This is one of the things where I kind of get to be the most frustrated in the process, because I like having control and I like knowing what's going to happen next. But sometimes I just don't know. Like right now. And perhaps the most frustrating part, or even the scariest part, is making a decision without necessarily knowing what's best, or without knowing all of the variables that are going into your decision. As I've said recently to my mentor, I realize that discernment is this process and all this stuff, but sometimes it's just really nice to have answers, and a lot of the times you just don't. So that's my really brief take on part 2. I don't really have any new information about my job situation, other than I think that my interview that I had on Wednesday went pretty well, and I have another one coming up on Monday. But I am still waiting to hear back about the full-time job opportunity. Anyways, I'll keep you posted as things come up, and I hope to see you all again on Tuesday. Why do I have a printer here? Ugh.